So last week, I got to spend the day at Obsidian Entertainment, and I got a chance to talk to the team making Avowed. So this video, I'm going to focus on my interview with game director Carrie Patel and kind of just give you my overall thoughts on my hands-on time with Avowed. But outside of speaking with Carrie Patel, I also got to talk to the combat team. I got to talk to the environment team. I got to talk to the art team. I got to talk to the narration team, music, sound, like everything. Like I said, it was an all-day visit to the studio, and I do want to thank Xbox and Obsidian Entertainment for the invite. But I probably have about 2 hours of content just speaking with the team that I do want to share. But since it's just being like the opening preview to Avowed, I'm going to kind of stagger that out over the next days and weeks, the additional conversations that I've had with the team making Avowed, because I think that in-depth conversation will go a long way. But this one, like I said, let's talk about my hands-on time with Avowed. What do I think of Avowed? So I like Avowed. I do. This is an Obsidian-ass RPG for sure. I've always wanted to see what would an Obsidian RPG fully backed by Xbox look like. And this is what we're getting now with Avowed. Now, this is my second time getting a chance to play it. And even now, and because I played it during the Gamescom, so even in this short period of time, there's been a visual upgrade. And I talk about this with the various teams. You'll even hear me talk about this with Carrie as well. But it has a visual upgrade. It's running on Unreal 5, and it looks good. It's looking really, really good. I think people are going to be impressed with the visuals on Avowed. The combat felt good as well. It had already, felt pretty decent when I played it in August, but definitely it's feeling more refined. You can tell we're getting closer to the final product for Avowed, and I love the various combinations of weapons and just the magic and the skill tree augmenting all your combat and the magic spells and just everything that you're going to be able to get with Avowed from a combat perspective. This is not a true open world. It's more or less zones, but the exploration in it felt good, and you're encouraged to explore. And you'll hear me talk about this with various people on the team, and even with Carrie in this interview. Like, you are rewarded for exploring these zones. You're going to find things off the beaten path that not only will help you upgrade your character, but just give you more information about the Pillars universe. We'll get into that with Carrie too. My God, I screwed that up when we talked to her on the Kind of Funny, but I like it. I like that they're building off the Pillars universe. They're giving us something inside this universe that feels fresh. It feels new. I'll get into this with the narration team when you hear that audio, but talking to the dialogue in here is really good. And I love that your choices are varied, and you can be a goody two shoes if you want. You can be an a-hole if you want, and that will matter. There will be consequences in your dialogue choices and for the actions and the choices that you make. I'm liking it. I'm really digging this. Your companions, being able to utilize them in the world as well, it feels good. And like I said, I played about 2 hours at the studio, and then we did get a digital preview that we got to bring home. So I got to kind of repeat some of the stuff that I did at the studio here at home as well. And I like it. I'm digging it. Is Avowed going to be an RPG for everyone? No, you need to be in this Pillars universe style type RPG to truly get what Obsidian is trying to do with Avowed. But I think from a visual standpoint, I think from a combat standpoint, I think from an upgrade standpoint, this is good. I didn't even get into the creator character. So we also got to do the creator character, and I somewhat rushed through it because I wanted to really just get into playing the game. But there's definitely some variety there that you're going to be able to do. And I think people will be fairly satisfied with the creator character as they go into this as well. So that's my initial thoughts on Avowed. I'm sure I'll be talking about it on Gamertag Radio. I'll be talking about it on Kind of Funny as well. So you'll get additional commentary from me about my thoughts on Avowed. But for this, we're going to transition into my sit-down interview with game director Carrie Patel on Avowed. And I will warn you ahead of time, I ran into some technical difficulties. So this will start off on video, and then there's going to be a very hard cut into gameplay, but with audio. And even with the audio, I'll just tell you now. So the camera had cut off, so I had to immediately pivot, and I recorded the second half of this on my phone. But I think I cleaned up the audio pretty well. You might hear some weird echoes here or there, but was a good conversation with Carrie. You can tell she's very passionate about Avowed, and I do ask her, some technical questions about the game. I'll save that until the interview, and just some of the things that I've seen people inquiring or being curious about with Avowed, and we'll get into that as well. So I think our conversation is about 21, 22 minutes as we go into that interview. So this is Avowed. I hope you guys enjoy this quick look into Avowed, this preview, as well as the interview here with Carrie Patel. I will absolutely have more content coming with Avowed through the various conversations that I had with the team at Obsidian. So I will say one final time, I want to thank Xbox and I want to thank Obsidian Entertainment for the invite out to the studio here in beautiful Southern California. And this is Paris. Here is my interview with game director Carrie Patel, and I will talk to you again soon. All right, this is Paris. I am still here at Obsidian, and this is my final conversation for the day. And who better to end the day with than Carrie Patel? Thank you so much.
Oh, thank you for chatting today.
I've been playing Avowed. I like Avowed.
Good. I'm glad to hear it.
I like Avowed.
Good.
But before we go into that, I have to go back in time because I've been dying to have this conversation with you. So you and Gabe came on Kind of Funny remotely, and we talked to you early on about Avowed. And I said, Path of Exile. And I've been holding on to that ever since. Going, why did you say that?
I mean, the initials are the same.
Yeah, they are the same. But this is the Pillars universe.
It is.
Yes, it is. But I'm so happy to get a chance to talk to you because I'll tell you another story. I saw you at the Xbox showcase, and I go, "That's Carrie." I'm too afraid to say it.
It's funny because I was like, "Oh, that's Paris." Oh, he's not going to know who I am. I'm not going to. I shouldn't interrupt him. Yeah.
No. But the reason I bring that up is because you've obviously made various appearances over the past year talking about Avowed, and it's been a long process to get to this point. We're here at the end, and while you were at Gamescom over in Germany, I was at LA Gamescom, and I got to play it. And I really enjoyed what I got to play. I thought the preview that we did, the zone that we were in, the objective we had was really good. It felt like a great Pillars RPG.
Hey, nice. Yeah.
But what I played today, I think really pushed me over the finish line for what Avowed is, because I have to admit, every time you would come on and talk about Avowed, every time we would see something about Avowed, it was not until August when I played it that I'm always, I don't know what this is.
Yeah.
What exactly is Avowed going to be? Yeah. Then it started to click. But what I played today really pushed that over the finish line that, okay, I get it now. First off, there's been a visual upgrade to it. It was already looking good. Now it looks really, really good. I think people are going to be pleasantly surprised when they see this final product that you're about to put out. But the combat felt better too. And it was already, I was fine with it, but this felt, it just felt good to play what we got to do today. And it's almost like I don't even have a real question for you, because I've been talking to so many people just about the combat, about the art, about the narration, just everything, the world building. I want to know, how do you feel now after all this time? You're almost at the finish line for Avowed. How are you feeling about the game?
I'm feeling stoked. I mean, you spend so many years when you're developing a game like this with your heads down, kind of working quietly. And there is such a long stretch of game development where the thing that you're working on feels less like a game, and certainly a lot less like what you played today than sort of a collection of features and very, very rough looking content. Yeah. And there's always, for every game I've worked on, there's always this, kind of moment in the final stretch where everything's finally come together. And as a team, you're playing it and you're like, oh, yes. It's clicking, it's coming together. Like, yes, this feels like something I want to play. Like it's, the art, the design, the combat, like all of those things start to click together. One of the challenges of showing off a game in development, obviously, is, showing things off in that rougher state and trying to show the promise of where you're headed. And with an RPG in particular, So much of what makes an RPG like Avowed really compelling just comes through in the experience. Like, especially, the exploration. Like, what works about exploration is seeing something that engages your curiosity and then going off to discover it and then finding something that delights and surprises you. But that's not something you can show in a 90-second trailer.
Exactly.
Like, that's something that you have to soak with. And same with dialogue. Like, we are relatively light on cutscenes, but, whenever we have a dialogue, it's something that the player is an active participant in. You're defining your character, you're defining your stance with relation to other characters, possibly making choices about quests. And that is all stuff that's, again, very hard to show off in a quick, snappy trailer, but it's something that when you're playing it, you're investing in that character, investing in your choices. That's where the real satisfaction comes through.
No, absolutely. And you touched on a common theme of everyone I've talked to today, exploration.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody has said that. It's about going off the beaten path and just finding things within this world. And even in my limited playtime today, I saw the main quest. I was like, no, I'm going to go do this.
Yeah.
And, got into a couple different encounters as a result. And it felt rewarding. And I just love that. That's what RPGs is all about. And to your point, I think it's very hard to convey that in a trailer and, like I said, on a 30-minute podcast where you're looking at B-roll versus you having the controller in your hand and actually playing it. And that's what I got to experience today because I got about 2 hours of playtime. And it was ironic. Right at the end, it all clicked for me, how the combat worked, how to use my companions, all these things. All of it clicked. Thank you for playing Avowed. We'll see you February 18th, 2025. I was like, oh, okay. But now I get it. And I think that's the thing that I hope people get out of this conversation that we're having. And obviously all the previews and things that'll come out of what we're doing today is when you get your hands on it, you're going to get it. And I can tell you for me, because I've been a fan of Obsidian games forever. So when Avowed originally got announced in 2020, okay, I am still here with Carrie Patel. You're listening to audio. I had technical difficulties, unfortunately, but the conversation that we're having was about once you get your hands on the game and how that's going to feel versus watching a podcast or a trailer or something like that. And the point I was just making that in my 2 hours of playing, it really clicked for me at the end. And I guess what I want to bring back to you is I'm just curious, is there anything about Avowed that we didn't get to play today or that you've not shown that you want people to know about the game? That isn't ruining anything, obviously.
Sure. Well, yeah, because I was going to say, I think probably right at the time your play session ended, you're on the cusp of some pretty big developments for your character and in the story. And I think there's a lot about the choices that you get to make over the course of the game, with characters, with regions, with your big storyline and kind of your smaller quest moments that you're going to see play out, and continue to pay off in different ways. I think there's one, pretty meaningful choice that you got to make after you fought the bear in the strangle route.
Yes.
That is a precursor to choices that you'll continue making. And so, obviously you'll have to get a bit deeper into the experience and the story to see how those things play out and to see, what other options, come up. But that's definitely something that I'm looking forward to players experiencing. And a lot of us love to lurk on the threads and see what people choose, why they choose it, and how they explain their choice.
So it has to be exciting for you to get this game into players' hands because the main theme of this seems to be player choice with the combat, with the dialogue, all this. So there's probably things that you've been testing internally that there's going to be things that people do that you're just not going to expect. So,
Yes.
how do you feel about that?
Oh, it's wonderful. Like there's nothing like seeing someone who is enjoying your game show you something you didn't know about your game. And even for those of us who have, been working on Avowed for years, it's still really rewarding to, play through a piece of content or a part of a region maybe that's gotten some recent touch-ups and find things that we didn't see the last time.
Yeah.
And because we didn't personally work on them, they're delightful surprises to us too.
I have to ask a technical question. So I was at LA Gamescom. And out of LA Gamescom, I just know that there was a somewhat controversial thing about frame rate that came out of that. So can you tell me what, from an Xbox standpoint, what are you targeting for Avowed on console?
So I guess, first of all, I do want to clarify something about that original comment, which
Yeah.
was that 30 frames per second is not the target. It is, we will absolutely be hitting that at the very least.
Right.
What we're doing right now is a lot of, on top of our bug fixing, is a lot of performance optimization. And that's where we make, in part, all of the gains that we can on performance to just get that number up as high as we can. It's a little early to say right now, what that final number will be, but obviously, we want to deliver an experience that, fully delivers on kind of the visual beauty and impact of the world, that doesn't, diminish any of the VFX or the environment art or, any of the character movement that, you were seeing today.
Yeah.
But that obviously gives players the best frame rate we possibly can. And that's part of what we're working on right now.
All right, fair enough. So that actually leads me to another thing, just again, from a technical standpoint, because what I saw today, like I said before, is a visual upgrade to what I even just saw in August, right? I go, wow, this is really popping off of the screen, not just even from the color palette or just the levels, but even from the characters themselves. They look vastly different. Like, just being fully transparent here, that first, not the first trailer in 2020, but the first trailer when you kind of re-revealed the game.
Yes.
The character models there, as I'm sure you know, there was a lot of criticism over that. It's night and day now. So my question to you is, do you feel a risk with that as far as potentially showing something too early, where I'm sure you knew internally, hey, we're still in development, we're going to be able to polish this. This is not going to be a representation of the final game, but that's what you showed a couple years ago. So, I mean, what goes into that thought process?
It's always a challenge. And there's always kind of a balancing of, we want to give players a sense of where this is headed and kind of whet their appetites, but also not show things too early in a way that doesn't do them justice and doesn't do the work the team is doing justice. I think one thing that complicated that decision for us was the fact that, we had shown that earlier cinematic trailer, and it had been a while since we'd shown an update since then. We knew that with the creative pivot we were taking, it was going to take us a while to, have our game content ready to show, which was true even at the time that cinematic trailer came out, right? Because that's obviously not in-game footage. So, we wanted to show players, that we were still in development, that we were still moving forward, and we were excited about what we were making, but obviously not, again, make sure that we were showing content that would also get players excited about what we were going to deliver to them. And I think there was another aspect there, which was knowing that we'd taken such a different visual and aesthetic direction from that first trailer. We knew that there was going to be a bit of ripping the Band-Aid off in terms of revealing that new direction. And so no matter how far along we were, there was going to be some amount of expectation adjustment that we would have to work through.
No, and I totally get that. And the reason I bring that up is because, as you might imagine, gamers can be fickle. And, first impressions, go a long way with it. So do you think because of that, you're going to need to, and obviously we're going to show it during previews and there's going to be things like this, basically reintroduce Avowed to gamers again, to go, hey, here's where we were a couple years ago, but look where we are now as we're going into February.
I think by this point, between, not only the trailers that we've shown since then, but also the gameplay footage we've shown, kind of the playthrough sections we've shown, I think we've had the chance to really show players both the progress we've made and also really get them acclimated to the new direction. So I do feel like I've seen, even online, a lot of those comments and, concerns be addressed. It feels like people see where we're going. And I think the thing that's been most heartening and interesting to me is the more that we're able to actually show in-game footage, something even like a 9-minute playthrough where we're showing a segment of a quest and, people are getting a sense for what it feels like to play the game and for how all of the different component parts come together, the warmer I've seen that reception become, which is, obviously what we want, because the final experience players are going to get is not a hours of a trailer. It's going to be that playthrough. And players seem to be warming up to that, which is all we can hope for.
Had to get those questions out of the way.
Good.
Because these are things that people obviously want to know, but I know that isn't the fun parts of being able to make a game. There's obviously going to be trials and tribulations along the way, but getting back to the game itself. Again, this is in the Pillars universe.
Yes.
I cannot stress that enough. I still can't believe I said that. But how much having to stay faithful, obviously, to the Pillars universe, the lore and everything that came before it, but crafting a new story and a new way forward for Avowed, what's the balance there as far as making sure that you're not doing something that wouldn't be true to what came before?
Yeah. So I think the biggest the biggest touchstones I come back to are largely about kind of the way we approach themes and tones and nuance in Pillars games. And that's where we have this very grounded sort of political layer and this very philosophical, metaphysical layer. And we give the player a story that gives them stakes in both of those worlds. And, the way we approach characters and conflicts is with a lot of nuance, a lot of shades of gray. You don't have, you don't always have easy good guys, easy bad guys. And, good characters sometimes make bad choices for understandable reasons, and villainous characters sometimes are, sympathetic and have their own understandable reasons for doing what they're doing. And so I think by kind of following those tonal touchstones and, making sure that we're delivering stories and experiences that make good on kind of both of those layers of a Pillars world and Pillars lore, that helps us stay faithful to, I think, the core of what makes the IP what it is, even when we're telling a different story in a different part of the world and through a different style of gameplay.
Consequences in your choices. How important is that going to be in Avowed?
Your choices are going to be very consequential and very important. Obviously, you're going to have moments like some of the dialogues you played today where you're getting to define your character. And the fun is not that, every single line is going to determine the outcome of a quest, but just getting to step into somebody's shoes, feel out who you want to be, and start to inhabit that role. But there are some very meaningful choices that you're going to make over the course of the game. You did start to see one of them today. There are several that I think will pay off in surprising ways for players. One of my favorite experiences is, either as a player, as someone watching someone else play, making a choice, maybe with a particular character, and then seeing that come back to help or haunt me a few hours later when I wasn't even thinking about them, but they've shown up or their friends are here. So players can definitely expect to see that. And I think one of my favorite consequential choices in the game is actually relatively hidden. It's, probably about midway through the game, maybe a little less. And there's something you can discover in one of the regions that will, if you discover it, if you engage with it, and then depending on what kind of choice you make around it, it will drastically change the outcome for that entire region and everyone who lives there. But the thing is, as a player, you have to go looking for it. Like, there's not a quest marker that's going to take you there. There are characters and notes and references that might kind of hint at it if you're paying attention. If you, cultivate certain allyships or, follow certain leads, you might get a little more assistance in finding it. But ultimately, it's another nook in the world that you have to engage your curiosity in order to discover.
I can tell you just from what I played today, two choices I made that I felt bad about after I did was I left the woman in the prison. And then I ran into another character. I ran into these two other characters. It was kind of like on a bridge. And I was purposely kind of being mean. Because I just wanted to see where it was going. And then we wind up getting in a fight. And afterwards I go, I shouldn't have done that. I felt bad. But I love that those type of things are in there. And it can evoke an emotional response depending on how you choose in the game. And like, obviously, as we get deeper into the game, there's going to be some really consequential choices as well. Talk to me as we get close to wrapping this up, companions. So we had one companion that we got to ride with here. during this preview, but how important are your companions going to be as you adventure further on into the game?
So they're going to be very important to both your combat and also to the story.
Yeah.
All of them have a role in the story in helping you get through the Living Lands and helping you resolve some of the conflicts and challenges that you're there to resolve. And all of them have stakes in that. So, we wanted to, with Avowed, tie companions a lot more closely to that core story and develop a lot more central content around them. So, they all have stakes in the world. They all have they were all either born in the Living Lands or they have lived there for a very long time. Yeah. So part of what they can do is kind of help humanize the stakes for the world and the regions that you're moving through and making choices about, and also at times introduce a little bit of conflict. I think all of our companions are, fairly reasonable people. But they still disagree very deeply on certain important things. And I think seeing their perspectives, seeing that conflict develop through their eyes, and kind of letting them be a little bit of a test bed for some of the decisions the player might make and some of the priorities the player might choose I think gives them a lot of meat and a lot of weight in the story.
Carrie, it has been an absolute honor getting a chance to speak with you, technical issues aside, but I'm very excited for this. I've been a huge Obsidian fan forever. So when this originally got revealed in 2020, I immediately put this on my radar because I cannot wait for Avowed to come out. And here we are now. We're so close. February 18th, it's coming out on Xbox and PC. And this is my kind of RPG. The combat felt really good. It's a beautiful game. I love dialogue choices. I love the consequences that could happen in here, and it's shaping up to be fantastic. So thank you for taking a few minutes to talk to me.
Well, thank you so much, and thank you for playing, and thank you for those kind words. It's really rewarding at this stage to see people playing the game, enjoying it, and responding to it. So thank you.
Yeah, thank you.